how did you find yourself in this business?
I started dating the boss.
How did you make that work? How your personal development has led you to the heights that you've reached now?
Well, if you're not learning, you're dying.
First thing that comes to my head is like, how?
You're only as good as your last job, and you have to keep perfecting the craft.
The reality is in construction is the competition's probably broke.
Absolutely.
There's just too much competition out there.
So set yourself outside of competition.
50% margins are way too high.
Compared to what? Going broke?
Welcome everyone to this episode of Unconventional Materials. Joining me on this episode today is somebody I'm really excited about. All the way from Scottsdale, Arizona, the president of J.P. Malone Construction, a design build firm that focuses on building high-end custom homes that are truly one of a kind. I'm so excited to talk to her about a number of things today. And without any further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and welcome her in. So that being said, Deb, what's going on?
Hey, just
How are
another
you?
day in paradise.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very blessed.
That's great. That's great. Deborah, I have so much that I'm excited to talk to you about today. We had a great conversation just a few days ago, and I got to learn about, how you've been able to build up your company over the last 34 years. And the company has been around for the last 41. So before we kind of get into how you built up this company and made it to what it is today, I want to get to know Deborah before all of this stuff. What's your story? How did you get into the space in the first place? And just, yeah, tell us your origin story.
Started when going to school. I grew up in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. So graduated in the early 80s. God, I'm dating myself. And 2 days after graduation, I got the heck out of a small town and came to Phoenix. I went to school for fashion design and learned early on there's no money in that. So I went into interior design and realized I'm not that person. So went to business school.
Wow. Okay. And
So,
so prior to that, though, you were born and raised in the Southern California area, my part of
yep,
town, right?
yep. Santa Ana, Long Beach, Huntington Beach, the beach cities,
Love it.
and grew up there. And in the early 70s, mid 70s, excuse me, we moved to Lake Havasu.
Very cool. And from my understanding, Kevin, your husband, he started the company and he has been the general contractor, from the start. I guess, where did you find yourself? I guess, how did you find yourself in this business in the first place?
I started dating the boss, and um, I started helping out on weekends. And finally, I said, "You have to hire me." And I worked for a title company and was their marketing rep and escrow officer and branch manager, and worked my way through that industry, and which is very similar to the building part of it, the business part of it, and made him hire me. And that's 34 years later. It's always been a female-owned business. His mom was the president previously,
Wow.
and when she passed, I became president.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I have so many layers that I want to peel back, and frankly, I have a couple ideas as to where we can kind of get started. But I guess this whole thing, as far as custom home building, was it a foreign land for you, or was it something that you kind of had an interest in, just given the fact that you were kind of dabbling with interior design?
Custom homes really meant it was insulated from the highs and lows, being that the fact that the wealthy make money in good times and bad times.
Hmm.
And bad times, they usually make more money.
Right.
So we decided to be insulated from that. My husband started as a framing contractor and realized that was too low in the food chain of construction. So he branched off and started doing, we were a bid builder early on, where he would get architect drawings, he would bid them, and we would get the jobs. Dealt with really tiny margins and a lot of error, because if it's not on the plans, but the client wants it, then you're constantly doing change orders and it's a heavy paperwork
Sure.
project. So after a while, what we realized is we would help them get to hit their budget, because we'd get these beautiful plans and they were beautiful, but they had nothing to do with the client's budget.
Yeah.
And so we would redraw them, and I would call it value engineering it. So, they had these beautiful bay windows and 6 windows in it. But the radius in the construction, it's 35% more expensive for the concrete guy than the framer, than the roofer. And you just keep adding those things up. And then it's 6 windows, where if you did a chamfered wall, it was 3 windows, larger windows, and it's not a big expense for the concrete guy, the framer. And so you took something that was $100,000 question to a $30,000 question. After we get all the things fixed, we would then send it back to the architect, and the architect would then charge him again to draw the plans and then tell him to go get 3 more bids. And it's like, well, I just saved your hiney, did half your work for you, you charged them, and then now you want me to bid it again. And so there was no loyalties. And so what I would made the suggestion of is that, okay, now we need to hook up with an architect that we get their work, because we do their work. We do what they want, and we implement their designs. And so there's not a lot of surprises. We review the plans and we act as a team. So it was an architect, a builder, and then the homeowner.
And then the homeowner.
And then the homeowner appreciated that, because everybody worked together. And then we got to the point where we were getting bigger and we were getting better at design. So we took that opportunity and started doing design in-house.
That's amazing. Okay, so that is quite the journey, and it seems like everything that I heard, at least from that point, was there were a lot of growing pains, and you kind of just had to adapt and overcome. I guess there are a lot of builders that I talk to, custom home builders, remodeling contractors, middle end, high end, you name it. And so many of them, they kind of discuss like their growing pains with me, right? What is something that you realized, I guess, about yourself through that first year to seventh or eighth year that you maybe didn't know about yourself prior to getting into this industry?
Most flexible wins. We are the speedboats of the industry. We are not behemoths. We're not the Queen Mary going down the road and to make a change. It takes months. We have to do it in days.
Yeah.
Or you're going to lose your behind.
Yeah.
So, we just, the most flexible wins, and listening to your clients, because a lot of what we found with working with certain architects is that they explained what they wanted, but they didn't draw what the client wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot was lost in interpretation. And then as a builder, you're just following the plans.
Yep.
But Aunt Martha's hutch, which was designed to specifically go in the dining room to fit between these 2 walls, doesn't fit. And guess who gets to deal with it?
Yeah.
The builder, never the architect. And so there was a lot of disconnect. And so, we take on a lot more responsibility as a design build firm, but the rewards are 10 times better.
Yeah, no doubt. And so talking about those rewards, I mean, you've been recognized and been invited to join the National Association of Home Builders it's almost like an inner circle. Is that right? You can tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's a Builder 20. They have many, many groups, and it's 20 builders in non-competing areas throughout the United States. And actually, we had several international builders that wanted to be part of our group. And we get together twice a year as each other's board of directors, because small businesses don't have to, they're not responsible for doing financials. We're not responsible for, getting bids on workman's comp and insurance and things like that. So by bringing these things, everybody has their book of business that they're really strong on, and others are stronger in other areas. And by going together and discussing these, you can have frank conversations and make quick adjustments to your business.
Yeah.
Every meeting, I probably save thousands and thousands of dollars by just I call it one nugget of information.
Yeah. And information sounds like it's been so huge to the development of the company over the last few decades. education is like one of the biggest things that I'm a huge proponent of education, especially for builders, because I don't feel like contractors get into this industry and kind of have a blueprint from start to finish of everything that they need to know in order to successfully run a business. You can own one, but it doesn't mean you can run it successfully. So talk to me about, I guess, like how your personal development has led you to, the heights that you've reached now.
Well, if you're not learning, you're dying. So, what worked yesterday is not going to work tomorrow, and what worked 10 years ago definitely doesn't work today. So, by bringing in amazing talent that, every day my husband is on his crack pad, and he's reading articles about different construction. We walk construction sites still to this day. Uh, Production guys are the first to try things
Yeah.
and specialize in it. Um, Crazy thing is, back in the early 90s, we were in Southern California and we saw a commercial building going up, and it was a flashing detail over windows because windows are notorious for leaking. So
Mhm.
we saw what they were doing, and we said, God, this should be so much better if you did this, this, and this to it. And so we made it a practice to do flash our windows. Well,
Mm.
the Scottsdale contacted me probably a year or two after we started doing that. And it is now currently their detail that we designed is
Wow.
now the requirements for the whole city of Scottsdale. Um, and it's a flashing detail, so windows don't leak.
Yeah.
Uh, Go figure. I mean, you're only as good as your last job, and you have to keep perfecting the craft.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the learning part. What I found is bringing in new talent, bringing in my kids. I have a daughter that has taken over my interior design business. It has taken over meeting with clients and doing selections and really pushing the design element of it. Our son owned his own construction company and came back to work for us, you know, 8 years later after owning his own business, and brought some of what he's learned to do and for his practices, and we've incorporated some of his, and then he's realized how we've grown as a business, and bringing those two together, um, and then always being a sponge. You have to
Mm.
listen, look, and if you know everything, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right. Right. I've heard that so many times. And you're saying a lot that I feel like a lot of people know, but not a lot of contractors are willing to admit because they don't know what to do with the information. And so I think when I hear personally, right, hiring top talent, first thing that comes to my head is like, how? Like, where do I even start? And so, what has been your talent acquisition journey? Because I'm sure you've interviewed many, many people over the last years. And so, I guess how did that journey of finding top talent start, and what have you learned along the way?
I've always been a proponent of giving back to the industry. So ASU has women in construction. And this is, if you can imagine, an 17 or 18-year-old woman walking into the Del Webb School of Construction, and you're one of three in your class. So I believe in doing scholarships. A lot of these are first generation of the families going to college at all.
Hmm.
And we've done scholarships for those that want to go into the residential. A lot of them go for the money in the commercial. But I think the residential is way more fulfilling than the
Yeah.
commercial. But, and we have our commercial license too. But it's what our passion is. Top talent, sometimes hiring. I love getting ASU interns in my business because
Mm.
they're learning the cutting edge. What is the latest and greatest? And then if they're full of themselves, I make them go out in the field and they'll dig trenches, and they'll really, especially the School of Architecture, because they have no flipping clue how to build. They can draw pretty pictures, but they have no clue. And by the time they're done with me in one summer, they understand construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that should be a requirement um, before you can become an architect. It's great that you understand how to draw something, but if you don't know how to build it, you're kind of at a disadvantage, and you're placing your business, your client's home at a disadvantage. Because if they get a crappy builder, they're only going to follow those plans. And if they fail, it's everybody's going to get sued.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like so you guys have poured a lot of time into the development of the younger generation. You haven't just kind of, all right, who's out there, who's available, and just kind of throw your rod at whoever's out there. Rather, you start from the root and you build that root up. That to me sounds like a way riskier play because of the fact that there's the time investment and then there's no promise or guarantee that they're actually even going to work out. So how did you kind of how did you make that work?
Well, but you understand they're juniors or seniors in college and they come and work for us. And I basically get a college education every time they come to my office.
Sure.
And everybody in my office does too. So
Yeah.
we are getting updated and the great latest and greatest. And this is what they're teaching. And then we show them how to apply it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like me going to college every summer without having to go to college every summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an intern and she was going to school for interior design. And I realized, I said, you could go work for an interior design firm, or you can come work for a construction company and you're going to do selections. You're going to do drawings of cabinets. You're going to do basically take everything that you've learned, but it's not theory anymore. It's reality.
Yep.
And after an internship, I offered her a job, and she now is my construction designer, and she does all my cabinet drawings. She does all of my interior details. She basically everything that I sketch or my daughter sketches, she turns it into construction drawings.
That's amazing.
So it's been a hit or miss, but you understand, I collect people, I don't turn people. So
Yeah.
my accounting person's been with me for 35 years. She's well into her 80s and still works 4 days a week. I'm
Wow.
well into my 60s and I'm still working 5 days, well, 6 days.
Amazing.
7. But we still love what we do. And that's who I want around me. And if you don't love what you do, find something else to do, because there's easier ways to make money.
There's easier ways to make money, no doubt. And construction is definitely, if this is not something that interests you at all, and I think that a lot of people they get into this industry thinking that, oh, you know what, I'm sure you've heard of the book The E-Myth, right?
Yes.
And so it's like this idea of the contractor who's out on the job site and he has what, the author says is the entrepreneurial seizure. He looks around and he's like, you know what? I could be doing this. I could be running my own crews. I know how to build things. And he, lo and behold, he finds out, 12 to 24 months later that running a business is a very different skill set. And running a business successfully requires many skill sets that are very different from the building part, right?
Wear a lot of hats. And in a small company, they go, oh my God, isn't it fun that you're the president? And I go, yeah, there's no toilet paper in the bathroom. I got to fix that too. It doesn't matter. I mean, you have to go in and you never ask anybody to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. And you keep learning. You keep learning. I sit down with my trades, and if I have a question, I mean, there was a detail that we wanted to do in a powder bathroom.
Yeah.
And we did not know. I go, you need to check with the fire sprinkler guy if we're going to have to put a fire sprinkler head in this alcove that you want to create. And they didn't even think about that. So it's those taking an interior design detail, but also being aware that there's construction layers that you have to add to it. And so, oh, it's a great detail, but what did you just cost me as a business to build that? Because now I have to have my drywaller's got a radius drywall. I've got a framer that's got to build a radius. And all of a sudden now this little fun detail in a powder bathroom is thousands of dollars, as opposed to it's just an arch on a facade.
Yeah. And every detail, every minute spent on those details, right, is something to account for. And it sounds like you have kind of learned that every minute of your time matters and it matters abundantly. And the only way that you can truly build a business and do it successfully, the way that you guys have been able to, is by taking yourself out of the low value activities. I like to call them low value activities or lower value. And actually asking myself, like, what can I do with my time that has the highest return, that has the highest form of leverage, right? And so, as you kind of stepped out of certain day-to-day tasks, what have become some of the higher returns that you've received on your time from the tasks that you do?
Probably spending time with my trades and finding out it's something simple that I did when I starting how to do all the bids. And well, I designed it. I wrote the scope of work. I budgeted it, but I sat down with all of my trades to find out how they did bids
Yeah.
so that I understood how to create a bid, because I have a bid in the process. We have a preliminary bid and then we have a final bid. Once every
Yep.
selection has been made, then we review the bid one more time. We call it the triangle. So
Yeah.
you have a design, you have a square footage, and you have a budget. All three things have something to do with each other. So it's
Mm.
either the budget is a constant, then the design's got to be diminished, or the square footage has to be diminished, or the finishes have to be diminished. But you just can't have the triangle can't get bigger and the budget's the same.
Mm.
So you try to explain that to a client in that I don't care what light fixtures they pick. It's an allowance item. And people go, well, it's kind of risky because I do a cost. It is a fixed price construction agreement with
Woo.
allowances. And in this industry, that's taking some risk. But I sit down with all my trades and I know where they buy their stuff. I
Yep.
know where my construction costs, when labor rates keep going up, when materials start keep going up, when material rates were such an influx and they were just basically going straight up. I had 3 new builds that I refused to start. And I told them, I'm doing this for your own good. And they looked at me like, I don't understand. And so, and I'm like, no, I can't protect you. I have no way of protecting you at all. And we just finished all of those projects this last year in 23. So we held them off from 2020,
Wow.
2021. We started them in 2022 and finished them in 23.
Wow.
And it saved them thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's amazing.
And I had labor. So, it wasn't one of these, the houses that we were in the middle of, a lot of big remodels, we were able to keep it in-house and keep those guys working. My trades know. I sit down with them and I give them my schedule for the entire year. I said, I'm not going to be busy in April, but May, June, July, and August, don't take on more work
Yeah.
because you're not able to service my work. And they actually appreciate that because they don't have to worry about, are they going to be busy or not busy or take on too much work.
I just heard so many incredible things right there. And I kind of want to take a moment, and I want the audience, you guys listening out there, to hear the importance of proactive communication. That's what I heard right there. Is that you don't take a moment, you don't take the time and just, it comes up when it comes up, and you'll talk to the trades guy in March when you have something to do in April. Like, you're talking to him in January about what's happening in September. That type of planning.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Absolutely. It's huge. And every month I call and let them know we're still good for this. We need to move this up because I was able to get those permits faster. So this project is going to flip before this project. And now when we get busy, and we have a tendency to be kind of busy, we're just rolling them from one job to the next to the next. I have 3 new builds in the works, and one's in excavation, the next one's in the concrete guy is digging footings, the other one the retaining walls are going in, and I have a third job that permits will probably come out in another week or so,
Yeah.
and it's going to go before the second one because of all my retaining walls. But I want to be able to run that framer over to that job over here, and then when we're done with that, he's able to go to the third job, and then by that point the fourth job is starting. So now we're excavation and we're just rolling the people.
Yeah.
And then you pay them and you pay them fast, and they don't have to worry about it. Then you have no problems as a GC.
You pay him fast, and maybe you pay him well, right?
We're competitive. There's no free ride,
Yeah.
and I will shop. I will, in the summers, normally when people are a little bit slower,
Hmm.
and I will shop other trades to see where my numbers are at.
Yeah.
And if my guy is creeping up, I'm going to go, hey, I've got another bid over here and they're $12,000 less. I love you, but I don't love you $12,000 worth.
Yeah.
And um, and then they look at their prices again.
And so it's again knowing your numbers well enough, because the only way that you're going to be able to effectively shop is by having an eagle eye on your numbers, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so tell me about, like, I guess, like, I kind of want to dive into sales, because I love, love, love talking about sales and bringing projects in, developing that pipeline. I think for me at least, Deb, one of the things that I see time and time again is that contractors have not developed their communication palettes. I want you to kind of speak to sales, selling, developing the pipeline, and kind of the skill set that you need to effectively sell yourself and also the company, the brand.
Well, you're talking that's my passion. In fact, I'm in a 2-year process where I will not be dealing with the day-to-day operations and just doing sales. I
Yeah.
want to come in, meet new clients, kiss babies,
Yeah.
and ship them off to my other staff. So
Yeah.
that's my goal. And in 2 years, I will be doing that. But you have to have that. You have to market yourself. Real estate agents, this is what they do for a daily basis. They're out there, they're kicking the doors, they have people. I'm very selective on what realtors I work with. I have a program that they can refer business to, and they get paid a referral fee. It comes out of, not, I don't charge my clients more because they got referred from a realtor. I use my marketing budget that I assess every year, and it comes out of that money.
Mm,
And but they only can refer their client to me. If they refer it to 4 other builders, I call that nailing jello to a wall, and I'm not interested in them
yeah.
because they didn't take the time to. I'm not everybody's builder. I can't build everybody's home.
Yeah.
So I'm very selective, but I want to make sure that I'm the right fit to begin with.
Yeah.
So if they're just looking for, I call them all you can eat buffet people,
Yep.
that's one quality that I'm not their person.
Yeah.
But I'm not fine dining either. I am the mix of it all. So I'm very conscious about clients' budgets. I will help them find a site that has something to do with how they want their home to be. So if I have a client that they're in their late 60s, early 70s, and I'm cognizant that they need to design a home that they can age in place.
Yep.
They can't buy a lot that's nothing but air,
Yeah.
um, because I'm going to have nothing but retaining walls and steps in the house.
Hmm.
So, those are the type of things real estate agents, I like paying them referral fees, but they have to, they have to clarify what their client wants. And again, I pick what clients I want to work with. Still love what I do after all these years. And there's a lot of unhealthy people out there that some of the best work I've done is referred it to my competition and let them terrorize their lives for the next 2.5, 3 years. Um, just you can't make there's certain people that they wake up and someone tinkled in their Cheerios
Yeah.
every morning, and those are the people that'll ruin your life, let alone ruin your day.
How have you kind of built, like, the filter, the lens to be able to vet out, problematic clients versus dream clients?
We break it into steps. So I teasingly call it, when you meet a client, it's the first date.
Yeah.
And whether or not that first date goes well would mean that you would then get to go and look at some of the projects. So I find out what they want in their lives. I have a 16-page questionnaire it's basically like an interview of the
Hmm.
client. So have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? What do you
Hmm.
think about this? And you just pose questions to them. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
I had a client that literally on page 2, after 2 hours, I go, you know what? You are not a candidate for building a custom home. You need to find a production home, or you need to find an existing home that you can renovate, because you cannot visualize anything.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I will literally give you a major heart attack
Yeah.
if I forced you to go through this process.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually appreciated that I said that, because their agent was pushing them in that direction. And I said, and if you want me to help you, I will help you with that too. I'm not a realtor, but I can help you
Yeah.
what we can do to the house to make it yours.
Yeah.
Um, so we go through that as first phase. Second phase, we take them through homes that we've completed. Um, and it's really interesting is that when they say, okay, I want this style or this style, I probably have a home that I did 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 2 years ago, or I'm currently in construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take them through that. We'll dedicate an hour and a half of time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And but if they go, oh, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't, or this is unacceptable, then you realize that you're maybe not their builder,
Yeah.
because they have an expectation of X, but then you've also established what their budget is, and their budget has nothing to do with
Yeah.
what their expectations are.
Yeah.
Easy way to get rid of those ones. But in the long run, what I found is my close rate is probably 98%. So if I've talked to them on the phone and then I meet with them, I have a retainer agreement available always the first meeting,
Yeah.
because you have a feeling. And after this, you do have a feeling. You also look at their body language and how they interact with their spouse. Because if he's pissy with his wife, what is he going to do to you?
Yep.
And so I don't take those clients. It's just it's a hit or miss. And ones that you think are going to be really good, you knew that they weren't good to begin with.
Mm.
Sometimes you sit there and you go, no, 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 I think this, and it's not right.
Right. Right.
Go with your gut instinct. It's
Yeah.
always right.
That's powerful. So I think that, man, I think the one thing that I tell so many of the builders that, I work with in our community, in our program, is you gotta have, because you said the 16-page questionnaire thing, right? It's
Yeah.
about, and I think that so many builders are so concerned with, like, well, when I get there, I want to make sure that I say this. I want to make sure that, they understand, like, how my bid works. They're trying to go so far in advance, and they're trying to almost beg their way into the laps of the homeowner, because they're thinking about the competition. And I love this saying so much. The reality is, in construction, is the competition's probably broke. So why are we trying to compare ourselves with other broke contractors if we're not trying to be broke, right?
Correct.
So speak to that a little bit.
Okay. Custom builders, guess what? We aren't sticks and bricks. We're selling art. And if you influence with integrity, it's a different commodity, because it's the whole package. We're a design build firm, so they have one entity to deal with. They have we do the interiors. So how I explain it is, we design it, we build it, and then we fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like that idea, that they don't have to bring all these other entities into their world.
Yeah.
Who knows you better than the person that designed your bathroom?
Yeah.
I know my clients too well sometimes. And it's like, oh, TMI,
Yeah.
TMI, I can't unsee that. But the reality is that some of them are my best friends, and some of them are godparents of my children.
Wow.
Because you get that intimately involved, because you've designed their world. You've
Yeah.
designed how their kids are going to live in their bedrooms.
Wow.
You've thought about all of these things, and you pose these questions. It's not that I have all the answers, but I ask the questions so I
Mm.
get them the answers. So, and when you have that kind of product available to them, meaning, and we have never built a spec home ever in all these years. We're conservative, probably to a fault, but we've survived.
Yeah.
In a probably, I mean, Vegas and Phoenix were probably one of the two, and then add Florida in 2009, We're probably one of the hardest hit areas.
Yeah.
So, but we survived it, and now we're on the other end of it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I call it blessings, but you know, people go, how much is your house price per square foot? Because that's the mentality of the average. And the reality is, how much did you pay for your Mercedes per pound?
Yeah.
Well, or versus a Chevy. There's no comparison, so you can't do price per square foot. After I get it all done, you can do price per square foot.
Sure.
But this site requires $250,000 of site prep, which goes in your price per square foot, which has nothing to do with the finished product.
Yeah.
So you can't. It's apples and kumquats, and they don't always go together.
No, you're spot on with it. I think that the reality is that I talk to builders, and when I hear them, when I ask them, I'm like, why would, if I'm a homeowner, right, and I have a project, and let's just say it's even a remodel project, right? Let's not even talk about custom homes. I want you to tell me why I should go with you versus anyone else. And I see them freeze up, and they're like, well, we coordinate the trades and we do this and we, buddy, everybody does that. Like,
It's given. It's a given.
everybody does that. Oh, we communicate really well. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Like, how can you take who you are, you know, your brand, your company, and I like the word that you use, right? Packaging it, right? Packaging it into a product versus here's this commodity that you can compare with all these other kumquats on the market, right?
Yep.
Making yourself like this distinguished force, this character that's like, oh, wait a second. They're priced all the way up here. They're not even in the conversation with all these other guys. And they provide this, and this. I mean, I'm taking all of this from you, Deb, and I'm thinking a remodel contractor, a high-end custom home builder, somebody who does spec homes, a fence installer, like anybody could take the information that you are laying down right here and apply it personally to themselves and their businesses. And that's kind of
Absolutely.
what I'm understanding is that this information is evergreen, but most contractors won't do it. And why do you feel like most contractors don't take that step?
Because it's hard. It's hard, but it's not hard. That's the stupid part of it. It's not hard. What's hard is to repeat the same process and hope your margins get bigger.
Yeah.
Do something that sets you apart that your margins can be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't know how to design, then bring someone in-house or partner with someone that handles that part for you.
Yeah.
I mean, hello. I mean, you can buy interior designers. I mean, I have the best structural engineers. I mean, we do the architecture of all of our homes,
Yeah.
but I have the best structural engineers. I have great civil engineers. I have great electrical engineers that stamp my plans.
Yeah.
So I'm doing everything, and I'm winning the same awards that those architects are winning, and
Yeah.
also putting my projects out there, and that they're being recognized by magazines and making covers of magazines. And to me, those are my brochures. People go, oh, do you have like a brochure? And I go, no, I just have reprints of articles written about our firm. And that's the other thing, is have the editors in these magazines in your localities, meet with them, go to an event that they have. Phoenix Home and Gardens is always having amazing events. Go there, introduce yourself. I met the editor of Phoenix Home and Gardens 20 some odd years ago. She's retired probably in the last 8 years, but the best part was there was this one award. It was Masters of the Southwest, and they never gave it to a builder, ever. I mean, had never, ever, ever. It was
Wow.
architects, designers, interior designers, landscape designers, everybody else, but never a builder. And I go, who the hell do you think built
Yeah.
these things? And she goes, well, we just never had an opportunity. I go, well, I want to be your first one. And I probably said that 6 years before we won the
Mm.
first builder as Masters of the Southwest. And that was in 2007. I
Wow.
started working in this firm in 1990. And it took me that long, but I
Yeah.
didn't give up. And I kept sending them pictures of the homes that we completed, have them professionally shot. It's worth it on your website to look, even if you're not big, you have someone that you can hire to, and photography students are great because they'll do it for almost free if they can use it in their portfolio. And then you get the rights of the photos, put them
Yeah.
on your website.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do a website, hire someone to do that, because the $500 that's going to cost you, you just legitimized your company.
Yep. Yep. That right there. That's like $1 million in 3 minutes right there that you just gave, Deb. You have spoken to so much. I want to do one exercise, one activity before we finish up today. And I want you to debunk some common contractor myths. Okay.
Okay.
First one is I can't increase my profits. Main reason is because there's just too much competition out there.
So set yourself outside of competition, your competition. Whatever they're doing, don't do it. Do something else.
50%
If,
margins are way too high on a remodel project.
compared to what? Going broke?
um, the labor and the talent, it's not out there anymore. It's 2024. Everybody's on their phones.
So take a C trade and turn it into a B grade trade. If you can't afford the A trades, if you pay them weekly, you can get a C trade to be a B grade trade. Easy.
And the last one, I want to work for JP Malone Construction. What's it going to take? Maybe not a myth.
I'm very particular about who I work for, and I'm even more particular who works with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that the reason why I even said that one was because I was kind of looking for that answer, is the fact that you know exactly who you don't want better than you knew who you wanted, right? Because the only way that you can really know who you want is by knowing absolutely who you don't want in the company, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The key thing is wherever you go to work, learn, be coachable, and ask questions. And stupid questions don't exist because you're learning from it. Ask the same question 17 times, you're going to get fired. But ask the question, learn from it, write it down, show initiation, show double check your work. It doesn't take that much time to check before you bring it back to your supervisor or your there's so many little things that you can do that does not take that much time and takes absolutely no effort at all. It means you're doing your job. And if you're a mouth breather, go work for someone else. You have to show up, you have to participate, and you have to, hey, phones are great, but use it as a tool to better yourself. And because my kids, guess what? I never let them game, but guess what they did do? They were on Sims. I let that happen. Because guess what they're doing now? They're doing photorealistic renderings for all of our clients. And that was, Sims was the step off point for them to start.
That's great.
They were designing houses and these conglomerations. And I'm like, you're really going to leave that toilet just sitting out there in the middle of the room? No, I haven't created the walls yet. Just give me a minute.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome. So it's fostering creativity within the company, internally within the workspace, and also creating that type of a culture that attracts people who are also ambitious, like-minded, willing, capable, and so on, right?
Exactly. Like begets like.
Love it. Love it. I don't have anything else for you today, Deb. This was a fantastic conversation. I got so much out of it, and I have zero doubt that the audience is going to get a ton out of it. Do you have any recommendations or maybe any last words, parting words for a contractor that is listening to us that's currently struggling within his or her business?
Find a mentor. They're out there. I always love new people, or find someone that you look up to their business and say, you know what? And I will tell you this, I've looked for these contractors. We get busy. The good contractors get very, very busy. Go to them and say, you know what? If you ever have projects that you don't have time for, but you need to refer them to someone, I would like to be that company. easy
Yeah.
because I got stuff that comes in and I can't build a garage.
Yeah.
That is not my forte. But if I had someone that could do that,
Yeah.
I was more than glad to share that with them because I have calls that come in my building, but I can't handle all of them because it's not my business.
Yeah.
So get a mentor, and the thing is you become a B trade basically that they can refer business to. Next thing you know, you're going to start getting, because once you do the garage, guess what? They want you to do the addition, and they want you, and those parlay into send them thank you notes after you're completed a project. It's little stuff, a handwritten note when you meet a new person.
Mm-hmm.
Write a note. Guess what? That is a talent that has been lost in society. They want to text you or email you. Screw that.
Yeah.
Write a note on, get a picture of one of your projects, make a note card out of it and send it to them. I
Yeah.
get more callbacks on those notes that I send out than anything else that I do.
Yeah. People are, they romanticize the idea of automation and technology and all this amazing stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's great. I love automation. But that human element in this business specifically, we're talking about the homes, the dwelling places that people inhabit, that people live in. And so, if we want to roboticize something that is so warm, something that's so personal to a human being, you're kind of going to get the results. You're more than likely going to get the results that you don't want, right? So do that one thing right there. I love what you said. Make it the personal touch, add the human connection, add that human element, and the last point, which is get a mentor. Talk to somebody who's a little bit ahead of you. Work within a community of people, of contractors, and you have your, inner circle that you're a part of. But and of course, like that's a big part of what we do here at Cosmosify is bringing order to companies and to construction businesses. But I just want to say, Deb, you are a shining light for a lot of contractors, and I just hope that somebody is able to take at least one. I'll go back to your word, one nugget of information and be able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars and then make hundreds of thousands of dollars from the advice that you've given today.
It's one of those things that's a blessing. I've been blessed in my years, and your clients will give you information and what they do for a living,
Yeah,
and you learn from them. And so uh, every day is an opportunity to be a better version of yourself.
love it. I love it so much. Deborah, thank you so much for your time today. And for those of you who have any questions about unconventional materials, and if you would like to get connected with Deborah, their website is available right down here. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much and have an amazing rest of your weeks. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.